So Mob Psycho 100 Season 2 has come to a close, and what better way to wrap up an amazing season of Mob Psycho than with episode 13. This episode was complete eye candy. It had some emotional weight to it. It had Mob being Mob, while also making sure that he would have to fight back against an opponent such as the boss. This episode really tied up the season in a near perfect fashion. I think the first chunk of this episode was just gorgeous to look at. The loose line work, allowing for more abstract imagery, the Sokka just exploding on the screen. Seeing Mob actually get consumed by his own power and in a lot of ways mirror the boss, that's really what we want to see. Because for Mob to go up against someone who is literally a nuclear bomb, he had to fight back, but I do like how the first little chunk is actually him losing himself. And the only reason he actually does come to is because of his brother, and he remembers what happens to himself and what happens to those around him when he does lose control, and the last thing he wants is to hurt those that are closest to him. So it's pretty interesting how in this battle you have kind of the shonen technique of talking in the middle of a battle, but for Mob doesn't want to hurt people. That's who Mob is. If Mob could save everyone and make everyone understand that you need people and that power isn't what defines you, it's the connections we have, that would be the best for him. But what makes him so sad in this situation is he knows he can't save this guy's soul, that he won't see reason, and the only thing that this man knows is force. So it's interesting seeing Mob in such a horrible situation for him. This is the thing that he wants the least to do with. He doesn't want to fight back against anyone. Even if he hates someone such as this man, he doesn't want to hurt him and use his powers to hurt people. He wants to use his powers to help people. So I think it's so fitting that over the course of this episode, we're seeing the tension and just stakes get risen higher and higher. And you have a man who's built up so much power over the years and truly is a nuclear bomb, as we see in this episode. But as Mob pushes him more and more, he also raises his kind of power level alongside him. So as Mob is twisting his body along, he gets more and more angry and loses control even more, to the point that he literally is about to self-destruct. Like, there's so many like little changes throughout his... It's almost like he was getting different forms as Mob took out one. You beat him in his human form, he's going into this more animal-like beast form. It was really interesting seeing Mob, because after Mob really regains his cool, you don't feel like Mob can't beat him. It just feels like, how can he lessen the damage to the city and those around him? Well, also, if there was a way for Mob to save this man's heart, because in a lot of shows you would say, oh, saving the villain's heart, like, that's super cliche, and it technically is. But Mob Psycho has always been about how Mob cares for others, even those who hurt him. He wants to find a way to show them the correct path and hopefully give them a way to redeem themselves. So over this episode, seeing just that fight get progressively more and more dangerous to the point that he's literally ready to explode. The only way is for him to die, and he tells Mob this. Like, he wants Mob to be a true opponent, because if you're going to take him out, he wants to make sure that you're worthy to take him out. So Mob just sitting there after this, right? Just sitting there saying, I'm not going to let you suffer alone. Like, that is so in line for Mob's character. In so many anime that wouldn't work, but because we've had 2 seasons of building up who Mob is, Mob's grown up so much in the season, Mob sheltering himself and saying, I'm going to stick with you in the blast because it's just too sad. Like, that's who Mob is. You wouldn't expect anything different. The only reason you would expect anything different is if you lost control, like at the start of the episode. But near the end of the episode, he's back into who he was. He told his friends to go to safety. He's putting himself in this bubble saying, I will be here with you. And we've seen that Mob has the same power as the boss, that he can absorb power. So what's pretty cool is something that I wasn't expecting. He had the broccoli seeds in his pocket, and he basically absorbed a nuclear bomb. And only Mob could be able to do that, and take that same energy and grow a giant-ass broccoli, like, only in Mob Psycho, and I think that's such a perfect way to wrap it up. He didn't kill someone, and I think, like, I'm sure there's gonna be some people who would have liked to see Mob go full-on rage and just kill people, but that's so out of character for Mob that this is what I'm glad to see, that Mob did fight back. Mob realized that sometimes you have to throw punches, and even after he realized that, he was throwing around buildings at this man. He was fighting back, so he did grow up, but he saw in that moment that he can be there with him, even if he dislikes him, and just absorbing that power, trying to take it all for yourself so he can live. Like, that is such in line for Mob's character, and really just shows how much he's grown up, because not only did he stick to his guns trying to save people, he still fought back when it counts, and when he sees an opportunity to absorb the power from someone else to take it on for himself, he's absolutely going to do that. I mean, right after the most destructive battle we've ever seen, of course it's going to go back to the Mob Psycho charm, we all know and love. Characters kind of goofing off, Reigen being like, oh, you can crash at my place, Mob's brother Ritzy being like, hell no, I don't want to do that, the bodybuilding club being like, it's okay, you can crash at my grandma's house, basically, and Reigen being like, okay, have fun. Like, it was kind of nice transitioning from such a horrible and powerful scene to back to Mob Psycho, because you would expect nothing less. You wouldn't expect the final episode of Mob Psycho would just be dark and gloomy for the entire ride. No, it's gonna have the Mob Psycho charm, and just seeing where all the characters wanted to go after this was nice, because quite a few wanted to work under Reigen after seeing what Reigen was willing to do, because Reigen really did inspire people in this moment here, and I like just seeing where everyone wanted to go at the end, really kind of giving that closure, so if for whatever reason Bones didn't want to kind of adapt the remainder of the chapters, you at least feel at peace knowing where a lot of these characters were going to go. And just seeing just the conclusion and the resolution to the boss's story, and seeing, like, you know, he, at one point, he did have people, he had a wife that he loved, he had a son that he loved, but power consumed him. We got the backstory to understand what led him to that, and we've seen multiple points where Mob easily could be consumed by his own power, so you understand how someone who has this amount of power would be able to be blindsided that he needs the power more than people, as there's been more than one occasion where Mob almost lost control and hurt the ones that he loves. Just with the boss, he actually did hurt the ones that he loved. So to see that, like, even after all the horrible shits happened, even after him being taken away, like, his son, his wife, like, they have a connection to him. It's the same reason, like, when a family member commits a crime, many people still visit that person even if they did horrible deeds, and it's more of like, you want to see where that character could go. Does he deserve redemption or not? No, because he wants to dominate the world. But I think, you know, him being a test subject, I think would be the worst punishment imaginable, because he'll be tested on his entire life. But also just seeing that there was some conclusion for his family, but also seeing what led him down that path, it was nice to tie that bow up. You don't forgive what he's done, like literally he was trying to destroy the world, but you understood what led him to that path, because you could easily see something like that happening to Mob if he lost himself in his own power, like he almost did in the middle of this fight here. So just having that closure, having the closure with all the characters, the side cast, and just seeing all the little kind of factions kind of break apart after this, it was nice to get that resolution. The episode was eye candy 100%. It was one of the best looking episodes of Mob Psycho 100. The music was on point, the voice acting was on point, but the fact that the actual story content matched the really impressive action and just overall entertainment factor to this episode is what you like to see for a final episode, because if this had to be the final episode of Mob Psycho 100, this would work. It really did feel like a nice bow to wrap everything up. You had Mob Psycho 100 comedy and charm and just lovable scenes, but also the most intense battle we've ever witnessed, with a nuclear bomb literally going off and a man absorbing all that power to make a giant broccoli tree. Like, you can't beat that, and only in Mob Psycho 100 could you see something this ridiculous and awesome all at the same time. Overall, this season of Mob Psycho 100 was definitely better than the first. The first season was fun, it was exciting, it had its very high moments, but season 2 just made everything so much better while enhancing the already impressive season 1 content, showing what one was truly building up to with Mob and Reigen and Dimple and the entire cast with Claw and everything. Like, it's nice when an author has a clear vision of where they want to go with their story. They're not just pulling things from thin air, they're actually planning something out. When you have such impressive personalities like Reigen and just all the side casts, really, it's nice when that impressive personality can grow and reflect on their mistakes. Like, I like how one, as an author, understands that people have to make amends for their mistakes. Reigen using Mob wasn't something that was just going to be Reigen gets off lightly. No, Reigen had to reflect that he was using Mob and had to grow up from that. Mob also had to grow up understanding that he can't always not use his powers. Unfortunately, there will come a time and a place where he has to fight back. Mob grew up. Mob had amazing growth this season. And hell, even the boss of Claw came to understand that maybe people were more important than power. Of course, you don't forgive and forget what he's done, but it's nice to see that reflecting on your mistakes is important to this author. It's not like a lot of stories where a character does something bad or the character makes a mistake and they just get off with no penalties and people forgive and forget, almost like they just skipped the prior episode and didn't even know what happened. With Mob Psycho, it's like those past actions, they actually matter. You're building up, you characters have to reflect, they have to feel bad, and they have to think about what's happening. Like with the boss of Claw, he's going to have his entire life to reflect on all the mistakes he's made and understand that he was in the wrong. And it's nice to see an author who understands that you shouldn't just have a fun personality like Reigen or have a fun personality like Mob and have it just be this kind of like abusive relationship where a kid gets taken advantage of by the person that he loves and respects the most. But instead, when bad things happen, the characters have to reflect on that and grow and evolve from that. Like, that's the entire purpose of Mob Psycho, and why I truly believe Mob Psycho is a tale of growing up. There's so much great content about Mob Psycho. The visuals are incredible. The animation, the art design, everything about it is just fantastic. And Bones really took One's unique art style and kind of made it flourish in such a beautiful way, almost similar to how One Punch Man got redone with a professional artist, where Bones kind of redid Mob Psycho in an even more professional way. The colors were always explosive, the OST was incredible, but the tale of growing up for pretty much every character in this show, and the ones who really didn't were just more of the side character there. With a cast as large as this, you expect some characters will be less fleshed out as others, but for the most part, the main focal characters, they really did matter and they fleshed out, and it makes me happy to have been a part of this ride of Mob Psycho 100. And whether they do OVAs, another season, a movie, whatever they want to do with the future, or if this had to be the conclusion, I'm fine with. This was a fantastic season, incredible season, emotional, intense. Everything that made the first season great was seen here with season 2, but just 10 times better, if not 100 times better, because I just love how the first episode of season 2 is literally one of the most emotional scenes, with Mob kind of standing up for a girl who's getting hit down by her friends for basically making fun of her for wanting to write a story. Like, it kind of set the stage for the emotion of the season, and with each episode, it just kept that quality there, if not got better. It was a fantastic season, and I'd love to hear thoughts from anime originals, manga readers. What did you think of season 2 of Mob Psycho 100? Did you love it as much as me, or was it a bit of a letdown for you in one way or another? Let me know. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy, and also hit that subscribe button if you're new around here. But until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.